from different places, we all have different names. No matter what life brings us, Jesus is the same. We're just your Methodist to the madness. Methodist to the madness. Hi,
I'm Beth.
I'm Tim.
I'm Jessica, and we're just your everyday
Methodist to the madness.
Hey, Tim, how's it going?
I'd say it's been interesting so far. So last week, I think I was a little bit overwhelmed at work. And I think basically I've been feeling a little bit overwhelmed in general. And I came to that conclusion today because one of my coworker friends messaged me, and she was saying that she was super stressed out, and this is like one of the most stressful periods in her life. And I'm like, you know what? I think maybe I've actually been overwhelmed, but I've just been not really thinking about it so much, or like thinking it was a big deal. So more or less suppressing it. And then I don't think that's been good for me ultimately. And so that was kind of a realization for me today. So I'm going to try to like focus a lot more on self-care over the next few days and see if I can like cultivate that like higher well-being for myself and stuff like that. So that's one thing. And then I saw my friend from out of state. He was a friend that I grew up with in high school, and yeah, that was pretty fun. I went over to his house, and I slept over there one night because I used to do that all the time when I was in high school with him. Mm-hmm. And we saw this movie called Elemental, which I think a lot of people have heard of, but that was a really good movie. It was a CGI movie, and it had like some interesting like subject matter associated with like the elements and how they had different powers and stuff. But one of the things that was really surprising to me was how it had a really significant romantic element to it. And I don't normally,
Isn't that a Pixar movie? Sorry,
I don't know if that's a Pixar movie, actually.
Oh, okay.
I would be curious to find that out.
I'm gonna look it up.
What?
I'm gonna look it up, but you can continue sharing.
Oh, yes. Thank you, Beth. Yeah, so that was a really interesting movie because it had a really strong like romantic element to it. And I haven't seen a CGI or animated movie in a long time that had, because, you know, CGI and animated movies here in the United States typically are family-oriented movies. So It was a pleasant surprise to realize that they provided romance in a pleasant and not forced kind of way. So I could definitely recommend that movie. And then for things that I learned, so the first thing is that sometimes I need to realize over and over again that I don't need to be in control of everything. Like I need to basically go with the flow. When things are not going a certain way. The best example of this is yesterday. I had to bring my car in for maintenance. One of my cars, because my mom drives one and I drive the other. And so we had to bring the one car in for maintenance. And then after that, we proceeded to go on several errands. And I became so irritable. I'm like, oh, this is not how I wanted to spend my Sunday.
Yeah.
So it was a really like big thing for me to remember, like going with the flow. And I actually did start to feel quite a bit better when I realized that I don't have to be in control of my time all the time. Like it's okay for me to do errands. It's okay for me to take care of like tasks that I don't necessarily like. And if I just kind of like start with acceptance as soon as I can, then I think that provides me that path forward to like have a better day and then I can kind of like have a reward at the end of the day for being like really productive and getting all this stuff done. And finally, I figured out that a lot of my problems that I might have, like just random stuff, like not doing laundry or like not committing to certain things that I need to do the day before, when some like important event, is that I tend to focus a lot on the present, like how I'm feeling at the moment or what I'm doing at the moment. And I think maybe if I was to be more future oriented instead of present oriented, then it would be a lot better. Like I could go, like, instead of thinking present past, I could think future present. That way I'm kind of like a step ahead instead of a step behind. So
Yeah, I could use that too.
So yeah, I'm curious if you had anything you wanted to say about that, but otherwise, I'm curious what's new with you, Beth. Oh yeah, go for it.
Well, I was just going to say that I looked it up and it was a Pixar movie. And the second thing I was going to say is you, the listeners, might notice that there is a voice missing in this.
I know.
Podcast. And
I know. I was just going to bring that up.
Not the voice that sounds weird because I still haven't gotten my voice back from being sick. Jessica is on assignment.
Yes. Jessica is doing very important things right now, and she'll certainly be back.
Hopefully, she'll be back next week. Jessica, if you want to move that part to the beginning, you can, and cut this part out where I'm talking directly to you through the podcast.
Yes, note to you, Jessica.
Another thing I was going to say, Tim, is that part of having the ADHD is not being able to see or not being able to plan the future stuff well. And that's really, I struggle with it a lot too. In fact, this will just lead me into my update. Yesterday, the boys went to the youth group Christmas party and they do a white elephant exchange. And I texted them at 3:30 because I thought that would be enough time to quickly pick out a white elephant gift and then go. And they were supposed to be there at 4:00. So at 3:30, I said, we should probably leave now so we have time to get a Christmas present. And Owen, who also has ADHD, didn't come downstairs until 3:45. So we were late and we just went to Smart and Final because we also needed to bring a dessert. So we went to Smart and Final, picked up the dessert, and instead of going to Five Below like I had originally planned, I just had them pick up things at Smart and Final for their Christmas present as well. And as we were leaving the store, Owen said, we should have done this earlier. And I was like, that's why I wanted to leave early. But then he said, no, we should have done this days earlier. And he's not wrong, but my brain, it didn't occur to me to do that like days earlier. And also I have trouble, I think I have more time than I actually do. I'm always plenty of time to do that later. And then later comes and I'm like, whoa, why didn't I do this earlier? I thought I had plenty of time, but now I'm scrambling. And that is how I live my life. And that's probably how I will always live my life. And it's fine most of the time.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's fine most of the time.
Yeah. But those are the times I need to remember to be nice to myself and not be so hard on myself when I'm not doing the things that would benefit me in the long run.
Absolutely.
Things that would benefit me in the long run. Last week, I decided I was going to start my meditation again. And so I think I did that 3 times last week, which was pretty good for me.
Excellent.
And I've been trying to take the dogs for walks more. And I think I also did that 3 times. And it kind of, this morning, it was super rainy and dreary. And my plan for last week was I'll wake up at 7 and then wake up Owen and I'll do my meditation and my devotional like while he's getting ready. But I hate the morning and I'm never going to like the morning. So, and what I did previously, I would nap on the couch until 8:00 when it was time to take him to school. And can't get motivated at 7:00. So I decided it's fine for me to take my nap, but then do that stuff when I get home from dropping him off.
Nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I also bought like an under the desk treadmill. I haven't bought a giant one because I'm afraid that I'll spend $1,000 on it and then use it twice and never use it again. But this one was, after the $30 coupon on Amazon, it was $170. And I bought a standing desk to go with it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
So
Yeah.
even if I can't get myself outside, I'm going to still try to get myself to walk inside. And I'm also going to try to figure out how to multitask with that besides watching TV. I thought I could try to fold laundry with it yesterday, but the logistics were totally off and it didn't work. So anyway,
wow, that is so cool, because I was thinking about how I wanted to get a treadmill and a standing desk, because I don't know, the treadmill, I'm like, this cold weather is just not doing it for me. And then the standing desk, I don't know, just randomly, I think it was last week, my coworker came up to me and he's like, hey, look at this. And he showed me a standing desk on his phone. And I'm like, wow, that could actually really benefit me. And I started contemplating how I could get a standing desk. But then, but you got one and a treadmill. Wow, congratulations!
I got one for $70, so I thought that was pretty good.
Oh yeah, that's a deal for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really glad that you're committed to your continual exercise, because that reminds me that I have been a little bit better about the journaling lately. Although 2 days ago, one of my entries, the only thing that I could write was hello in the entry.
That's fine. It's something. Yeah. You said writing it every day, even if it's just one word.
Right. So that's really certainly the point in which I've established a journal writing habit, where I'm okay with just writing one word in there. So
sometimes that's all you can do, Tim. We don't have a lot for church updates this week, mostly because I didn't look at the calendar, but so there might be a whole bunch of stuff you guys are going to miss this week. But as usual, there is food for thought at 6:30, and Kids Club is every second and fourth Wednesday now. And I believe this Wednesday is the fourth Wednesday, so there will be Kids Club this Wednesday. And that's it for the updates. But I wanted to share an email that I got from Pastor Jim about the podcast. He said, he forwarded a message from a former church member. It says, hello, Beth. It's Joan Williamson. I was in a few drama shows at PUMC. Yes, I remember. You were my mom, Joan. Remember you were my mom in the pageant? Anyway, and I moved to Portland, Oregon to be near my son and his family. Their daughter, Ramona, is now 2 years old. We call her Mo or Mochi. That's adorable. Anyway, I just found your podcast and was about to hop onto journaling, but I enjoyed the podcast so much I listened to that. Good news, bad news. The upshot is, please pass along my congrats to your fellow hosts and tell them what a great job I think you all did. And I'll be online tomorrow at 8:00 for journaling. Love to you all at PUMC. Joan Williamson.
That is so nice. Wow. Yeah, I love that. That is just wonderful that she sent that in. I really appreciate that. How do you pronounce her name again? Joan. Yep. Thank you, Joan. That was really nice.
Joan. Margaret is our guest this week.
Woohoo!
Margaret is actually one of the reasons I'm here today at the Palmdale United Methodist Church. She used to teach Zumba, and the person who got me into Zumba is actually Dathan Dedman's daughter-in-law, Cassie Dedman. Her son in first and second grade was friends with my son, Owen, and Owen kept bugging me about a play date with his friend, and which is Dathan's grandson. And then Cassie was the one who told me about Zumba, and she was like, you should come to Zumba. There's food before Zumba, and food for thought used to be before Zumba. And I don't know what I was thinking, but I said to her, it might be weird. Like, she might think it's weird that I showed up to Zumba. And I was like, no, she'd love it. And she was right. Also, speaking of second grade, Margaret was both of my boys' second grade teacher, and she's one of my very favorite people, and she's an amazing teacher. She's a teacher of life now since she's retired. But,
yeah.
so, welcome, Margaret. Why don't you tell us what brought you to the Methodist Church?
Well, aloha, coming to you from
Thank you for joining
Hawaii
us, Margaret.
right now.
I forgot to mention that she's living her best life.
Oh, wow.
I'm in Hawaii for another week. It's great. It's just wonderful. I'm on the same island as where Pastor Jim,
Oh, yeah.
grew up about 20 minutes from his. I went to his house before he sold it to look at it for friends of mine to see if they wanted to buy it. But that's another story.
Oh, what do you know? Wow.
Yeah. So what brought me to the Methodist Church was my upbringing. My mother was a Methodist. Her mother was a Methodist. My aunt and uncle were Methodists. My uncle was a Methodist minister. He actually married me. Well, he didn't marry me, but
Yeah.
He officiated at my wedding. And I grew up going to Sunday school, and then I was in youth group. One of my favorite things and favorite memories of my life is youth group. And then I taught Sunday school myself. And then I've just always been involved. I've sung in the choir. I used to be on the preschool board. I'm now in SPRC. I'm Methodist to the core, Methodist to my madness.
Yes, that's why you're on this podcast as our guest. That's so nice.
Methodist to my madness. And Beth is also one of my favorite people. I loved that she morphed from going to Zumba class to going to the church sometimes, and then going a lot, and now working for the church. And now it's been a process. So
that's amazing.
Yeah, it's wonderful. It's wonderful.
To some crazy places.
Insane. And I have to say, this has nothing to do with Methodism, or maybe it does. I don't think I've ever laughed as hard with anyone as I have laughed with Beth.
Oh, yeah. I can return that sentiment to both of you. There's same here.
There's joy in there.
You're the third person, I think, to mention laughing and my laugh. Well, not my laughing, I guess, but
your laugh.
Yeah,
it's very infectious.
It's just there's a lot of laughing that goes on when.
Yes.
Margaret and I also used to go to the same gym together, and we would partner up with each other, and we would just tell each other things like we were 12-year-olds, and then just giggle about it
and giggle. Yeah, and it's like it was a tough gym through. It's like, come on, girls, Come on, girls. Speaking of ADHD, we were all over the place. So, did I tell you about the assignment and the? Oh, did you hear? Oh, my car broke down. Oh no. It's so much fun. I remember when you got Kevin, the tarantula. Is Kevin still with us?
Kevin is still with us, yes.
How long did tarantulas live?
I don't know. We got him he was a Christmas present during COVID lockdown. We got him, I think it was January of 2020 is when.
I thought that they had like a year's lifespan. Apparently not.
So the males only live for like 3 to 5 years, and the females can live like 15 to 20 years, I think.
What?
So, yeah. And we don't know if it's a male or a female, but Owen was like, its name is Kevin, male or female. And
okay.
Yes, it is, Owen.
I think that's a unisex name, actually.
I think so too.
I think my Kevin, my husband, would disagree with you.
Oh, really?
So anyway, I truly enjoyed the camaraderie, and thank the good Lord that Pastor Jim has a fabulous sense of humor, because that just,
Yes.
inspired by Jesus to laugh.
That's my motto. I was on a Zoom call with my dad and his wife, Lisa, and my brothers, Ben and Sean, who don't listen to the podcast, but I'm still going to my dad does, but my brothers don't. I'm still going to send them podcast merchandise anyway, but that's not something, that's an ADHD thought that I said that I didn't need to say. But anyway, we were talking about the podcast and how you were going to be today's guest. And my dad brought up the time that he came to visit. I think Lisa did too. I can't remember now, but
yes, I think I met her.
Okay, yeah. So she did, yes. And I brought my dad to school after I dropped off the kids, and I brought him. I introduced him to Margaret, and I also introduced him to Jonah's first grade teacher, Miss Myra, and both of them said, without even speaking to each other, "Thanks for making Beth."
Yes.
and my dad brought that up yesterday, and I think that's the first time I've ever seen him speechless.
That's funny that Myra said the same thing.
He did, I know. And he heard it twice that day, and it made me laugh so hard.
Well, that's how impressed we are with your production.
You put out a quality product, Bob.
Yeah, exactly. I can agree.
That's right. And unique, one of a kind.
One of my friends one time, she said, like, my whole family is really funny, and both of my brothers particularly are also really funny. And my friend Nicole one time said that she thought it was interesting that all three of us are really funny, because that doesn't always happen a lot with siblings.
Right. Oh, certainly not. Yeah.
And I think she was thinking of her own siblings when she said that one of her sisters is really funny, and the other two probably not so much. I don't think I've met her sister, who is probably the least funny. But
all three of my kids are funny. I
can say that my brother is funny, and I couldn't say anything else because I don't want to offend anyone on the podcast by saying that someone's not funny.
I know I felt bad saying that my friend's sister's probably not funny, but I don't think my friend is listening to the podcast, and her sister definitely isn't. So sorry that I said you weren't funny.
It's okay. Some people don't want to be funny.
No.
Right. Actually, yeah, that makes sense. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
there's
like to say I'm giving my kids just enough trauma that they can be funny.
Well,
That's
here's
how
the
it
thing.
happens.
I just realized something. People that don't seem funny, maybe they have a different sense of humor than the kind of sense of humor that we
Yes.
have. So,
Yes.
they have the dry senses of humor and
Yes.
all that
That's
stuff.
my husband. My husband has resting. Oh, I almost said the bad word. He has resting bee face.
Wait, what?
He never smiles. He doesn't look at all like he's enjoying himself ever. And he's absolutely hysterical.
Oh
But
my gosh.
you really have to listen. He's
Wow.
I call those people ninja funny.
Yes.
Ninja
Just
funny.
sneak up on you. Like, yeah, you have to, like, they're just going to put a finger in there and you're like, whoa, that was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are the best. Because, yeah, from looking at your husband, he looks like he's never enjoyed a day in his life.
Just very.
But he's really funny.
He's
I really funny things.
Oh my gosh. You know what?
Really
Maybe that's all the people like that aren't like smiling or laughing or anything like that. That's their hidden agenda, right? So some of the best comedians have completely serious faces and they're just saying completely humorous stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very true. It's very true.
Yeah.
Well, are we supposed to talk about the sermon? Shall I get us on track?
Keeping us on track, Margaret.
So glad you asked.
Oh, that's the teacher in you, isn't it?
That is the teacher in me. We have an agenda. We must stick to the agenda.
Let's honor the agenda. So, Margaret, would you like to talk about the sermon with us?
Absolutely.
Great.
Yes.
Yes.
She's the one who asked.
That was implied when you mentioned it, but I just wanted to get it on record. I don't know, just kidding.
I was pleased with the sermon because the book of Ruth is like my favorite. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
It's a good one. For people who aren't familiar with the book of Ruth, I'm just going to, or haven't watched the sermon yet, I'm just going to give a quick summary about it. I didn't trust myself to be able to come up with a summary that made any sense, so I looked one up online.
Okay.
And I'm just going to read it real quick.
That's nice.
The book of Ruth relates that Ruth and Orpah, two women of Moab, had married two sons, and Naomi, Judeans who had settled in Moab to escape a famine in Judah. The husbands of all three women die. Naomi plans to return to her native Bethlehem and urges her daughters-in-law to return to their families. Orpah does so, but Ruth refuses to leave Naomi, declaring, "Where you go, I will go. Where you lodge, I will lodge. Your people shall be my people, and your God, my God. Where you die, I will die. There I will be buried." Ruth accompanies Naomi to Bethlehem and later marries Boaz, a distant relative of her late father-in-law. She is a symbol of abiding loyalty and devotion, I'll say.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you for reading that, Beth.
You're welcome.
But that Ruth speech is so much more beautiful in Old English than the King James Version.
I bet it is.
It's so beautiful. Whither thou goest, I will go. Thy people shall be my people. Where thou diest, will I die, and there I be buried. That's just poetry. It's just beautiful.
That is beautiful.
Pastor Jim mentioned that it's often romanticized and people, it's recited at weddings.
Yep.
And I didn't realize that because when I was reading it, it made me think of the Gilmore Girls. I don't know if anybody's watched that show, but it's a show about a mother and a daughter. The mother had her daughter when she was 16 years old, and they're just, really close. And
Wow.
and the show's about them. And the theme song goes, "Where you lead, I will follow. Anywhere that you tell me to. And if you need me to be with you, I will follow you everywhere." And I wouldn't be surprised if that song is based on those verses, because
Wasn't that by Carole King?
yes, it was.
Yes. Where you lead, I will follow.
Anywhere, tell me.
I'm sure it is based on that. I think it's absolutely beautiful.
I do too.
Absolutely beautiful. It was interesting to me, I love the book of Ruth because it shows the power of women.
Yeah.
And if you listen to what Pastor Jim said in the sermon from last week, just horrifying, awful, hideous things were being done to women, and it took centuries to get out of that. And they were not seen as people so much as property. They were not allowed to own property. They were basically nothing without a man. Aren't we glad you've come a long way, baby?
I've seen men. Some of them aren't great. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Margaret. I hadn't thought of it like that. But yeah, basically that story was like a testament to how important women are and what like place that women have in society. And look how we are today. Women are equal to men. You have like women in all, like represented as persons. And in the book of Ruth, that's what was exemplified. So that's great.
There are a few incidences in the Bible, like Esther. Mary, the mother of Jesus. Where just the Mary Magdalene, even where the strength of women is highlighted. So actually, if you think about it, the Bible is a pretty progressive book.
Yeah,
for its time.
Considering that all of that stuff was going on.
Yeah, that's really fascinating and awesome.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
I thought it was interesting that Pastor Jim said that Naomi tries to send Ruth away 3 times. And it made me think that about when Peter denied Jesus 3 times. Pastor Jim is always saying that numbers are important in the Bible.
3, 7, 12. Those are important.
Yeah,
wow. Yeah, and we talked about in the last episode of our podcast about how Joshua was hearing from God a strong and courageous 3 times.
Yes. And he said that something about if you want to become Jewish, the rabbi tells you no.
Yeah, he denies. The rabbi denies 3 times that you become Jewish. But if the person still persists after the 3rd time, then they can become a rabbi. Yeah.
And that made me think about how I'm really bad at saying no. I'm working on it. But when I do say no, I can say no once. But then if somebody asks me again, I'm like, I guess I'll do it. And I was thinking I should go by that 3 times rule just to see if people actually mean it.
Me too, yeah.
and chances are, if I've already said no twice, they're not going to ask me another time.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
But if they do, Beth, they really need you.
I know. You have to say yes after the 3rd time.
I'm a sucker for being needed. I don't know. And
indeed. But I liked that sermon. Did you see the children's sermon?
Yes, with
poor dog.
No.
Poor dog with the cone of shame.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I felt terrible. But I guess the point was new beginnings.
Yes.
and
Mhm.
and how this is. I'm going out on a limb here. I'm going down an ADHD donkey trail.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
the
no,
donkey
we'll
trail.
find.
There she goes. But
Hey,
it's like how, like the butterfly effect,
Too late, Tim. She's already on the trail.
I
yeah,
know, I know.
everything that happens precedes something that happens after it. That's a stupid thing to say, but go with me here. So
Okay.
Oh, good.
I'm on the train.
had not Ruth gone with Naomi and married Boaz, and begat, and then David was born.
That's
and
right. Yes.
begat, and then Joseph was born, then maybe the whole Jesus story would have been different, and we would have been sitting here worshiping a golden cow. I mean,
Well, the Israelites did that for a reason, after all.
Yeah.
So.
That's better than worshiping a bowl of pasta or whatever.
I do that occasionally.
Owen sometimes says he's a pastafarian. And
Oh, bless him.
whatever makes you happy, man.
Oh my God.
I like that. I like that. No,
But yeah, I'm super glad you brought that up, Margaret, because that shows how important the Book of Ruth is. The fact that the lineage of like where we have Jesus was based on Ruth's marrying. What was his name again?
Boaz.
Yeah, marrying Moaz. Like that's just so profound. Like not only the companionship that she was providing Naomi, and that's just admirable and so like inspirational in itself. But then going down and in the time in which like Jesus was born, that just makes the story so profound. And yeah, there's just so many things that we can learn from that story. It's awesome.
Yeah. I like the question that was asked. Who are we when we no longer are who we once were?
Mm-hmm.
Yes,
And
that's true. How many times have you reinvented yourself? I mean,
Yeah. And Pastor Jim was talking about how there's times where we don't want to do things, and I guess that's sort of what I was referring to in my check-ins, really. But so it's like perfect timing. It looks like, and yeah. So then when we learn to accept the things that we don't want to do or we're forced to do, it's like we become a new person. And I think that's what happened with Naomi, right? Because her what was it? Her husband died, and her son as well. Her sons.
Her two sons died that were married to the two girls.
Yeah. Wow.
And then one went away because Naomi told her to, and it was the smart thing to do. And then one stayed, and then we have Jesus. I mean, if you follow that.
Right. Exactly.
It's amazing. So Beth, you're, I mean, faster than you can say anything, you're going to be experiencing a shift in your existence by having an empty nest.
Yes.
Let me tell you that saying, who are you if you're not who you've always been?
Yes.
So true when you're no longer the mother of a person that you're totally responsible for.
Right.
I'm already kind of feeling that shift, like Jonah's still very much Mr. Homebody, doesn't, he's still best friends with his friends he met in kindergarten. And as far as Jonah's concerned, like those are the only friends that he needs. And, maybe that'll change, maybe it won't, but he's not interested right now in dating anybody. But Jonah or Owen is like social butterfly. And Owen's been telling me since probably since he could talk. Not really, but he's been telling me that he's leaving the second that he can.
Turns 18. I remember you told me that when he was 7.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. So I think sometimes he would try to tell me that because he wanted a reaction. He wanted it to hurt my feelings. But I think it also in a way, like he's just been trying to prepare me all this time.
Uh-huh.
But here's what I think's going to happen, and I might be wrong, and I will be perfectly okay with being wrong. I think he's going to leave for a little bit and then realize how hard it actually is out there on his own. And he'll realize that he didn't actually know everything that he thought that he did. And he's going to come back for a little bit longer. Like, if I'm wrong, I'm okay with that. But that's just how I think the trajectory is going to go. And Jonah, we're going to have to move to a house with a basement because he's just going to live.
He'll be with you forever.
So,
Beth, you know, my
really
daughter's
nice.
with me right now. My 28-year-old daughter. Yeah, she came back, you know.
I mentioned Jason Mraz a lot because I love him so much. Margaret and I actually went to a Jason Mraz concert together one time.
Oh, wonderful.
But there's a song called 93,000 miles. No, 93 million miles, because that's the distance from the Earth to the sun. But there's a line where the mom says, just know you can always come home. And that's,
oh, that's wonderful.
and that's what my mom has always said to me. And even when the pandemic started and we were just supposed to be on lockdown for 2 weeks, and then it turned into basically the rest of our lives.
Yes.
Yeah, pretty much.
I didn't have a job. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was homeschooling the kids at the time that the lockdown first started. But then, and Craig was considered an essential worker, and so he would go to work every day, and he'd get to talk to the people. And I'm an introvert, but even I was like, I need to see people. I need to talk to the people.
Yeah.
But I just, when I learned that the lockdown was going to go on for like a few more months, I just started crying. And my mom was like, well, why don't you come visit us? And I was like, really? Even in the pandemic? And my mom was like, yeah, of course. So we went to see my mom, I think, for 4 weeks.
I remember that.
Wow.
You did school at your mom's, right?
Yes, we did. We did.
Yeah,
And I have a funny story about that. No, this was a different time. This was later. But we were homeschooling when, no, we weren't homeschooling when we went for the pandemic because that was during the summer. But then like a couple months later in October, we went to visit and Craig came with us too. And I told my mom like months before that I wanted to get another tattoo. My mom and I have matching tattoos of a dog and a cat, and there's watercolor. And
oh, wow.
I wanted to get another tattoo that has surprise, surprise, Jason Mraz lyrics. It says, I feel quite foolish sometimes when I pray, but my thoughts are all I got, so I try to make them brave. And it's in my mom's handwriting. My mom
that is so
she has
nice.
really cool handwriting. So, whoops, I stopped the timer. Oh, I made it go away. So anyway, I told her months before that I wanted to get a tattoo, and we were planning on doing it in the week in October that we went to visit. And so when you get a tattoo, you book the appointment months in advance. And so my mom booked that appointment and said, this is the day that the appointment's going to be. So I left the boys with Craig at my mom's house, and Jonah was doing like SAI classes. What does SAI stand for, Margaret? I don't remember. Anyway, they were individual classes to help him get better at reading and writing, which he was really struggling with at the time.
Uh-huh.
So he was in, and those were always on Zoom anyway. So Jonah was no stranger to Zoom when everyone switched to Zoom.
That's good.
So I had Craig log him onto the class, and I guess his teacher wanted to talk to me. So she said, Jonah, go get your mom. I need to talk to her. And Jonah said, she's out getting a tattoo. And I was like, and I didn't learn about that until like a couple weeks later when Craig told me. So the teacher probably just thinks I'm out getting tattoos every time he has to log on to a class.
Maybe.
But it's fine. Anyway, do we have any more thoughts? Tim?
Yeah, so I wanted to give my my big update on what I think about the sermon, and there are two thoughts that came to mind, and the second one is credit to both of you because I hadn't thought of it before the episode here. So the first thing is I feel like this story really resonated with me in terms of my faith, like. The fact that I was an unbeliever for like a really significant period of time in my life. And then like, I kind of felt like God was persisting, like to bring me to faith or something. And it kind of reminds me of the very first sermon that I saw from Pastor Jim. It was the first day that I went to Palmdale UMC. It was the episode on prayerables. And he was talking about the story in which I'm trying to remember all the details now, but it's not completely coming to me. But there was a story in which it tends to be interpreted that we are persisting with God, but then Pastor Jim was saying, oh well, maybe we could actually reinterpret this and figure that God is the one who is knocking. And so it's interesting how I could like make that connection. I feel like that's sort of how my faith journey has been, where God has been persisting in my life. So the reminder is that in the book of Ruth, Ruth kept asking Naomi to like be with her and so forth. And so yeah, that it was just like an interesting reminder for me in that regard. It was kind of like a powerful experience to notice that, like, even though I was an unbeliever and even though I thought I was just going to be a skeptic or atheist my entire life, suddenly God came into my life like unexpectedly. And so it's just like a really nice thing. And then the second thing that kind of relates to like personal, like relationship kind of stuff. And I think this is sort of like a big thing to bring up, but basically, when I was going to community college, at some point I realized that I just kind of I have better interactions with women when I wasn't thinking about the fact that maybe I would get a girlfriend. And so I was like, oh, maybe I should be aromantic or something. And I'm like, oh, maybe that actually works for me. And so then that kind of like went into like celibacy, more or less. I think I'm going to be celibate my entire life. That could change. I don't know. I went from skeptic to Methodist Christian here. So this is the dating delicacy podcast after all. So
oh yeah, in previous podcast episodes, we jokingly say we're trying to set Tim up with, I don't even remember, ladies.
Yeah, ladies in general. Yeah, I don't remember either.
Or men, you know.
Yeah, or men. Yeah, not. Yeah, it could be. You know. So anyways, so I was. The reason why I brought that up is that in my going celibacy for my lifestyle, I figured that. It really didn't make a whole lot of sense for me to like be completely independent from my mom. And so we just sort of like are going about life together. Like, so she and I are just like living together at home, and like we're working together on like problems, and we're having fun together, and we spend a lot of time together. And so like I can really relate to Ruth and Naomi in that respect. Yeah. Like I have a strong relationship with my mom. And it was also a reminder for me that it's really important that we be good companions to people in general. Like we have our friends and we have our family members and we have our marriage partners, and like that I think is really powerful and important that we have those like cherished kind of bonds. But yeah, in particular, like I can relate to the mother, a strong relationship with my mother. So yeah, that's like another level of understanding there for me in that story.
Yeah. But I think what makes this story even more special was that Ruth wasn't even a biological daughter. She was a daughter-in-law, and yet they were so close. And I think that's even more powerful because
absolutely.
I didn't really get along with my mother-in-law. Let me just say, Craig could have been a totally different person if he was led by a lot of the guilt and manipulation that she tried to instill with him. But that's one thing I'll say. He has always had really firm boundaries, like between me and his mom. And when she came to visit when my kids were babies, like she tried to compete with me. And one time, he told on me to Craig and said, she's not doing anything except for nursing those babies or just Jonah. But I was within earshot when she said that because I was still nursing Jonah. I think he was going through a growth spurt. I was nursing him at the table, the kitchen table, and they had retired to the living room, which was only like 3 feet away. And so I was listening the whole time. And this was at the very beginning of our marriage. Like it was only like 2 years in. And I was listening to see what he was going to say to his mother because that could have, changed everything. But he was like, Mom, you have to leave her alone. That's what the babies need right now. And you just need to let her do things how she wants to do things. And from that day, I was like,
wow. Well, that's really nice that
he's always had firm boundaries and
that's important.
Stuck up.
I was going to ask you if you would go anywhere that your mother-in-law led you.
No,
I wouldn't have either. No. No, I would not have. Of course, my mother-in-law, God rest her soul, was agoraphobic, so she wouldn't have led me anywhere but to the kitchen.
Now, can you remind me what agoraphobia means?
That means you're afraid to go out of your house.
Oh, I think I have a mild agoraphobia tendencies.
Sometimes, and I know this is not healthy, and it's probably, I don't know. Sometimes I envy the agoraphobics because, like, I don't want to leave my house, but I have to.
Oh,
yeah, that's what I feel like. Yeah,
that's not a healthy way to think of things, I don't think. But anyway,
right. Yeah, but the assertiveness thing, though, that's huge. So, like, Craig, like, basically talking with your mother-in-law, Beth, and setting those firm boundaries, that's really important. And then, yeah, it's like kind of this like general subject matter we've had throughout this episode about like, it's like persisting, not persisting, assertiveness, and so forth. And like Ruth was very assertive with Naomi, yet Naomi was telling Ruth no 3 times. So yeah, it's when we have something important that needs to be said, then we kind of have to like set those boundaries. But then if somebody is really like sure that the boundary needs to be flexed or even broken, then that can happen too. But in this case, yeah, your mother-in-law, it's like Craig knew that there needed to be a boundary set there, and so yeah, I'm glad that you were able to have that.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I think that sums up the sermon pretty well.
Yeah,
I think too.
Lots of great feedback. it's really nice that we all had some interesting thoughts and things to share. Would either of you like to share a prayer request?
Let's start with Margaret. Do you have any prayer requests?
Yes.
Great.
All right.
Yes, I do. There is a new Wassner life growing, and I just bless that. No, not me. I'm not pregnant.
Oh.
Dang it.
But I just would like blessings and prayers that everything goes well and that I get to step into grandmotherhood for the first time with all systems go. I'm very excited.
All right.
Biological grandchildren, because I know you
Yes,
have.
I do have surrogate grandchildren.
Yes.
Oh,
They call me
wow.
School Grandma Margaret. So my friend Tolene, the mother of those children, said, "So does it mean you're going to be literally Grandma Margaret? Literal biological Grandma Margaret? Shall they call you that?"
Oh, that's great. Oh, wow. Congratulations, Margaret.
Thank you. Thank you. Lots of prayers. I've been praying a while.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Prayers for that. That's so remarkable.
Yeah. What about you, Tim?
Let me think. I think a prayer for me to focus on those two things that I learned earlier this week about going with the flow, but then also being like future oriented. Because I think if I do both of those things, I'll be happier and more productive, basically, which is exactly what I need, more or less. I don't want to be inconvenienced by not being future oriented, and I don't want to be unhappy by thinking that I need to control everything all the time. So yeah, and I guess a prayer for me to just continue on the journal writing, even if I write hello in there for a certain day. But yeah, just I guess a prayer for everyone that's listening that needs one as we continue on in January. I'm sure that some of us that are listening are still writing 2023, even though it's 2024.
Did you know that January is the only month that has the same amount of days as the whole year?
What? Huh?
January is so long. Why is January so long?
You really had me going there, Beth. I was thinking there was some kind of mathematical formula that I didn't know about or something. So anyway, yeah. So that's my prayers for me and everyone else. But what about you, Beth?
Thanks for asking, Tim. We always forget to ask Jessica. We're getting better at that. My mom just recently had her rotator cuff surgery on the 19th, and it went well, but the recovery time is so long. It's 4 to 6 months.
Oh,
and
wow.
I think she'll be starting physical therapy in a couple years, a couple weeks.
Months. Oh, weeks. Okay.
4 months.
Oh.
I don't know. Sorry. And also my friend Lucy with the. Sorry.
Let's pray for Beth to stop coughing.
Yes.
I have water somewhere.
That is the reason for the interruption. And just for everyone that's listening, I have a tendency to drink a lot of water during the podcast episode. So I think that Beth is like a titan for not having water readily available.
Anyway, sorry, I'm better now. My friend Lucy, who has the stage 4 breast cancer, I know she's been having kind of a rough go of it as of late.
Oh.
And if we could just continue to pray for her and pray that her spirits be lifted and she can find things that don't suck in her life.
Yeah,
One thing I will say,
absolutely, Beth.
one thing I will say is she divorced a couple years ago, and about a year and a half ago, she met someone on the Facebook dating thing, and they are, if you believe in soulmates, they are like,
Oh, that's
soulmates.
good.
And,
Oh, that's wonderful.
and like they've only been dating for about a year and a half, and they love each other so much. Like, he is the yin to her yang and vice versa. And his family has also accepted her as their own. So
Wow.
even when she's having a hard time, she does still have really good support from both
Yay.
her
I'm
friends
so glad to hear that.
and her soulmate.
And you're a good friend. Or even
Beth, you're a good friend. You always mention Lucy. That's really nice.
I actually, her last status message on Facebook just broke my heart. I'm not going to share it, but she was having a really rough time, and she shared a picture of what she looked like before the cancer, and then shared a very real picture of what she looked like with the cancer. She's got chemo, and she also has to do steroids with the chemo, and she's completely shaved her head, and so because the chemo makes the hair fall out, and so she was having a hard time with that. So I went on Amazon and just went and found a bunch of like fun wigs.
Oh,
and
fun.
I had those sent to her, and I put on the little gift thing that she should channel her inner Moira Rose from Schitt's Creek. And I also wrote on the note that she didn't have to wear them, and I wouldn't be upset if she didn't wear them in public because I sent them just for fun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I hope she said she got them yesterday. I hope that that lifted her spirits some.
They will bring her joy. They will bring her joy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, we're at an hour.
We're at an hour. We did it.
But before we potentially close here, I think we were planning on closing. I don't know, maybe not.
Yep.
But I do have to share a self-improvement tip for this episode.
Oh, yes.
Just like the last two, I found a very important one that needs to be said. If you ever get lost while on the road, don't stop at a gas station for directions. Instead, stop at a pizza place. They know where everything is.
Wow. That's genius. On that, speaking of that, Tim, I thought of the one that you read. It was probably, I think, the first one that you read. Jessica for Christmas got Tim. Is it a calendar that has a life hack for every day?
Yeah, but some of the life hacks on the day, I don't know. I usually go by it on the week because, like, I don't know, like some of the things, like, for example, one of the ones is talking about an iPhone or an iPad, but I don't have an iPhone or an iPad, so I'm not able to. But overall, it's a really helpful book. It's got like all this great advice.
Well, I think about the one that you read the first day where walking 3 miles a day can have the same effect, or if maybe more, I don't remember, as running 1 mile. And so I haven't done it yet. I can totally do it, but I just don't want to yet. I don't know. I'm going to try to walk 3 miles a day. Wow. I don't know if I can do it with the dogs. I used to do it every day when I had big dogs and they were younger. But one of the dogs that I have is Lucy's senior dog, Ricky Bobby. He's a Jack Russell Terrier.
Ricky Bobby.
Have you seen?
Yes.
I've seen that one. Yeah.
We call him. Sometimes I call him Richard Robert. Sometimes I call him Sometimes we call him Ricky Blobby. Sometimes it's just the Blobster. Anyway, he's and sometimes I tell him if you're not first, you're last, because that's what the real Ricky Bobby from Talladega Nights character says.
Shake and bake.
Shake and bake.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Oh my gosh.
Anyway, I don't know what happened. He's a senior dog, and I can tell that he already has some arthritis, so I don't think he'll make it 3 miles. So I'm trying to just take them around the block, and then I'll finish the other 3 miles later.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was actually thinking, Beth, that since you said you had a treadmill, you could probably divide it up, like like some outside with the dogs, some inside. So that's so nice. Very cool.
Yep, and that's my TV watching time. Anyway, thanks for joining us.
Just don't get too ADHD when you're walking, Beth. I was walking yesterday. I was walking down in the jungle, down the beach road, looking at the beautiful ocean, and I got distracted by a whale. And I got so excited that spouting. I got so excited that I fell.
Oh, no.
Oh, wow.
I fell face first. And so I'm nursing several fallen injuries.
Oh, wow.
Just from distraction. I could have stopped and looked at the whale, but no.
Luckily, I don't find too many whales on my walk with the dog. So, and if I did, that would sure be a huge distraction.
Yes, I think everybody would be distracted by that.
Oh yeah. I was thinking, Margaret, that you were going to say something like, I was so distracted by the whale that I followed the whale for a really long time and I got lost and I couldn't find my car or something like that.
No, a much shorter, more abrupt story.
I just could not find my pride.
I hope you recover from that injury.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I sprained one foot, so this is the other foot.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to add a prayer. Prayers for you to recover from that.
Oh well,
sprain.
thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.
All right. Well.
All right. So. Yeah, in that case, you guys gave me the thanks. So thanks, Margaret, and thanks, Beth. It was great talking with both of you on this episode.
Well, and thanks for having me on, you guys. God bless you, and go Methodists.
Yeah, go Methodists. Woo, Methodists madness.
We're all from different places, we all have different names. No matter what life brings us, Jesus is the same. We're just your Methodists to the madness. Methodist to the madness.